y'all see the news that came up today?
No, what's recording now? So what's the latest news?
Oh, ooh, well, this might be a little touchy, but it was something that just recently came out with the past like 30 minutes about the Florida state health official person.
Mm-mm.
Apparently they came out and they were fired for not they refused to manually manipulate data apparently, and they were asked to manipulate data to coincide with what the state was wanting to do, and they refused to do it, and they got fired. And apparently they've come out, and now it's like popping up on all of the news sources.
Well,
What are they manipulating to raise or lower? That's
To lower for reopening.
okay.
They wanted I shared the article, and
I think
my
I
belief
briefly
is whether
saw
you
what you
raise
put on there. Yeah.
yeah, whether you raise or like undershoot it, either way, I feel like it's both of them are equally dishonest and bad. But to actively suppress information to make it look lower than what it is to support reopening and possibly doing more damage and putting more lives at risk is kind of, I was like, that is very sketchy.
Yeah. They're both
Yeah,
sketchy. I mean, either way you want to look at it. When you start
Oh yeah,
manipulating
totally.
numbers for whichever reason you want to do it, it's just
Oh,
like,
both. Yeah, I mean, it's happening on both ends. You have them boosting the numbers, and then you have them lowering the numbers as well. And it's like I've got to the point where I just don't trust it anymore. I don't trust anything I see. I just kind of like I'm done looking at it.
And we've kind of been hitting that point for probably the last month. I think we've all three of us been beating that drum like this has gone to political, and we're all done. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are done. They're like, just stop.
nice.
Yeah, one of the books I was telling Coach Purdy I've been reading a lot during all this too. One of the books I've been reading that's been like very ominous, just kind of looking at some of the things in there, is 1984, the George Orwell novel. Yeah, and seeing like the Ministry of Truth and all this stuff, like the manipulating information. I'm just like, oh, this is way too accurate for the time period we're in at the moment.
All right, if you want to completely go on a tangent but kind of have fun with it, but you got 1984, the Ministry of Truth. I mean, heck, you got the modern, well, it's not modern day anymore. I mean, our kids it's new to them, but like, dadgum, that whole Harry Potter series is almost based off of that with the Ministry of Magic and the whole political thing and cover-ups with the schools and the teachers and whole nine. It's funny how much history and novels like that repeat themselves throughout things. So, all right, let me go. I saw a truck pull up real quick. I'll be right back, guys, and we'll finish off with our show. Let me go make a quick delivery.
Yeah, and as a history guy, we always notice that when people stop studying history, it's usually within a couple generations that it repeats itself. So,
yeah, that's actually one of the things me and my grandmother were talking. She was born, I think she was born right after the Depression, but she's in her 80s, so yeah, it was after the Depression. She's been through a lot. She was, during the polio vaccine stuff, during, World War II, Vietnam, all these things. And Cold War, we were talking about this the other day because I was helping her run some errands because she doesn't move around very well. And she was just talking about how, history tends to repeat itself. And the longer she's lived, the more she's seen that happening. And there's another interesting book that I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. It's called Ordinary Men. I don't know if you've read it, being a history person.
Sorry, I'm eating, so I'm muting myself. So I'm
You're good.
But I've heard of it, and actually I've read it. Yeah, it's one of those I read when I started teaching. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, to look at how, ordinary men came to do some of those things that the Nazi Party needed them to do. It's interesting to see what happens when you have a government that is very, they good speakers. I mean, because people can say what they want. Adolf Hitler was a good speaker. That's how he, that's one of the ways he came to power. I mean, you have someone who's able to convince you of anything. They can make you do some really questionable things.
Oh, there's no doubt. And all people think people care about is what's going to be given to them.
So. No, you should earn everything. Or I completely miss anything you said, but people are expecting things to be given to them. I'm like, dude, if you don't earn it.
We were talking about the book Ordinary Men. It talks about how.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's Nick said he's read it. I know about it, and I've seen a lot of different things I've read before have reference to it. So I've got kind of more of like an outline of it. I haven't read it myself, but it's getting it in the mail.
And it is very graphic. So if I'm remembering correctly, it is one of these ultra elite part of the SS with the Nazis, and they would go in and they would do the assassinate or the killings of the people in the towns. And even the trainings of them was shooting actual live people and teaching them how. The parts I've able to remember was teaching them how to use the pistols to shoot people in the back of the head so the brain matter didn't blow back onto them. So this show is not for kids, all right? So we need to post it.
Very historical things, and I mean that's
it went to the psychology of how the guys blocked it out. Went crazy, but how they like what Tyler was saying, like people just do things for the government. People just do it, but these ordinary people, the good people, could be like people like us, that they just blocked out what they did. And when they had to think back on it, it was like they couldn't believe that they did it. But they did it for what they thought the government believed in. So it's a good book, but it's really graphic, man. I'm telling you what, it was eye opening whenever I read it. So
interesting. Sounds like interesting but good read, but a bunch of different ways. So kind of I guess going along with those same lines, I was thinking about for today talking about I know.
Wait, this was the episode you were wanting to have?
Yeah.
Talking about brain matter?
Yeah, brain matter. So we're heading right on with it. But now Nick mentioned he already ordered the Chosen Suffering from Tom Ryan. I ordered it today, and then it actually came with I think I got the email, but like the 12 stages or 12 things.
Yeah, I haven't looked. I literally glanced because it was on my phone, so I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I just did a little bit earlier, but the 12 stages for a season from Dan Gable. So I was like, dude, pre-ordering the book and getting that free little ebook, I was like, was bonus enough. And then
that was worth the money.
Yeah.
Where did y'all order y'all's from?
I got an email and it just sent me directly to the webpage for Chosen Suffering.
Yeah. So, it was probably a personalized email like mine. So did you get a personalized email, Ed? It was like, hey, Ed, this is Tom. Will you order my book?
Yeah, I got the same personalized email.
Yeah. Well, the reason I was asking, because if I was able to get it, because I know where to get it from, because I think I sent it to you. I sent you the screenshot or something, but
I think you may have sent it to me one time too.
Yeah, because if I was able to get it off Amazon, that's where all my other stuff's gonna be coming in from. And I was figuring just one giant Amazon order, but I mean, if I have to order it from somewhere else, I signed up for the newsletter or the email when it came pre-ordered. So if you go back to that website, you can probably get it. I don't think it's from Amazon though, not the pre-order. Yeah, I was just I was hoping, fingers crossed. So I was hoping someone would be like, yeah, we got it from Amazon.
Yeah, I think I got on the email list for it because having ordered the Rudis stuff in the past, and Rudis and Ohio State, all that kind of stuff comes out through the same mailing list and all that kind of stuff, it seems like, which makes sense. But I was gonna say just Tom Ryan's names for things in wrestling I think are awesome. This book Chosen Suffering, and I listened to a podcast with him, and I think it was the Rudis podcast actually, Jason Bryant and them talking about the terminology for the Chosen Suffering and where it kind of came from, some of the outline of the book, but between Chosen Suffering and then Positive Infinity and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, dude has got one some of the best catchphrases, but the way you look at it and think about it and how he does things is really, you know why people go to Ohio State, you know why people after meeting him, it's kind of you get the Iowa mentality and style of things from him having wrestled there, but with this almost different, I'm trying to think of how to describe it, maybe you guys can help out, but a different feel to it with how his positivity with Positive Infinity, Chosen Suffering, and how he does things versus look at a Cael Sanderson program and they're play wrestling and this is just for fun, their script, and then the Iowa style is just that Iowa style. I think it's really cool to see these different personalities come out from the coaches, and you can see it resonate with those teams.
Yeah, and it's not that Penn State and Iowa don't look at building people.
Yeah.
It's just that, I mean, they all work at building people. It's just Tom Ryan's way of building people, and it fits more. Tom Ryan mold fits more in the business mold of building quality leadership people than the Iowa or Penn State mold does.
Yeah.
So having these things kind of fits into what that is. So the business of it, I think, is more or less how it goes with that. Building these people. So, like, not saying Iowa and Penn State and everybody, even you at middle school, me at middle school, like you guys, you're all trying to build people too. He's just doing it, and his way is more business formatted, which is an easier sell than the Iowa and the Penn State stuff. It seems to fit more.
Yes, totally. I mean, the Iowa way of building people, I think, is to make them into psychopaths. Honestly,
They're already fast when they show up, though.
Huh?
Think about it. They recruit guys that are already on that path anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean,
knowing your clientele, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at people like Thomas Gilman, you're like, man, that guy's a nut. Look at, I mean, even though she didn't wrestle, I mean, obviously she didn't wrestle at the University of Iowa, but for Forrest Molinari, she at the Hawkeye, she's kind of got that swagger and that kind of craziness about her. Then you look at the way Penn State built their guys, and it just seems like they build them. To me, it seems a lot like kind of like the New York Yankees. It's like you're coming in. It's like prestigious, and you know what you're getting into, and it's very or like the New England Patriots, something like that. It's just like win. And not saying they don't produce good human beings too, because they do, but that's just what it seems like. It seems like they've become so accustomed to winning that when you get there, you're kind of fitting in that mold where and then you have Tom Ryan in Ohio State where you're getting. I mean, I just like the way he, Kyle Snyder, you can't say enough about, he's an amazing person. Nathan Tomasello, all those guys who've come out of Ohio State. So,
I think it's different. Whenever Ed and I came through, you went to places more or less for the name recognition of the university and the person. Whereas now, due to social media, guys are going to colleges based off what's a good fit for them. So the hard-nosed guys from Iowa, Okie State just hiring the guy to be the RTC that was an Okie State alum, that works with the high school kids to kind of put the pipeline. Ohio State's going to be more the business-oriented type people, and Penn State, the more chilled, so everybody's kind of now able to see what it is. And Ryan's smart, man. He knows his niche. So
yeah, for sure. And I really liked the aspect of how the book was presented, like being a leader, not just, and it wasn't just targeted toward wrestlers, but it mentioned like this, like the whole nine. And like with some of the reading that I've been doing lately was the switch, like how to change things from, I think it's geared toward businesses and self-help and life and stuff like that, but like you can use it for programs and wrestling. And then drawing a complete blank, but Tyler and I talked about it a lot, the Navy guy, make your own bed. I mean, that's not a wrestling book, but that's just a book about being a good leader and positive influences and changes and stuff. So that book to
Jocko Willink?
Huh?
Jocko Willink?
No, it was the guy that is from the speech. He is a Navy SEAL. He did the speech at the University of Texas graduation.
Yeah.
Okay, because
I had the
know
book
Jocko
here,
Willink
but it's not in here right
too.
now.
Yeah, now Jocko's got some stuff too. He's got some good stuff. I usually show that guy's speech. I can't name his name. I usually show that speech.
Craven.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So I really liked the way that book sounded, and I thought it kind of fit right along with those things there, with those other books that I was reading on how to do those things. And I think also right now, not to like go back to COVID or anything like that, but like anytime that I think there is change going on and stuff like that, these type of books that, we all feel it, like we should be reading, learning, and doing things, but to find a way to be not just a leader, but a positive leader and a positive role model and things like that, as coaches, as all of us are, as educators, as just a son, father, anything else like that, anything that we can do to lead positive change for people, as we go back into whatever norms to new, man, it got dark all of a sudden, to new norms.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
Yeah, to new norms that it is out there. I think these books are dead on, and it's just a good way to educate yourself some more. Yeah. But another thing that I really like that Nick mentioned was like, he's right. When we went to places like, okay, I wasn't good enough to go to Iowa or Okie State or Oklahoma or all those places. I got recruited to go to Chattanooga, and I was like, cool. I had a choice of going there or to Western Colorado. So as I looked at D1 or D2, and I didn't know much anything about D2 schools at the time, just because, just lack of information or access to information like we now have. I was like, might as well go D1. Yes, what it was. So went to Chattanooga. But like Nick said, now it's what's the best fit for an individual. But also that best fit for an individual is we're no longer looking at just names of, which is going to lead into kind of another thing, but not just names of universities, but like the names of the coaches and the coaching staff has gotten to be a tremendous thing. And that's why I think that Tyler said it. We may be seeing a turning point for Oregon State. I mean, Pendleton leaving from Arizona State to be the head coach and then bringing Imar out as an assistant coach. I mean, you're talking about names. They've got a West Coast recognition already being from the West Coast, but man, like, is that what they needed out there? Just that university to go from putting out the one or two really good guys like a Bresser and Desi, to now like that draw to be able to pull, 5 or 6 guys that can make a run and like put them, as a podium runner type thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what I mentioned to you the other day. It seems that, with bringing in Imar is just kind of that, I guess, that final little chess move that it looks like they're kind of, I don't want to say playing a long game because I feel like this will have short-term benefits too. But, I mean, Oregon State's always had a pretty decent team. I mean, it's not like they're some, below average team. They've always had some really, like Bresser and all these guys come out of there. I mean, they're pretty solid. And then I think just adding these 2 pieces now, with Imar being the final one, I just feel like it's that turning point that you're going to see them start to steadily be, one of these top teams, top 5 or so. And I feel like that's probably not going to change for, for the foreseeable future, at least, the next, I'd say, decade. You're probably going to see them making a push to have a more elite level team than what they've had in the past.
I think the next.
And I'm going to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm a little bit more reserved in this, only because of Arizona State, even having guys, hasn't had the tremendous success with the staff that they had, and I know Pendleton going to Oregon State. What all is really going on behind the scenes, and what do they have that will draw those recruits into that spot? I know we got the names. I know we got Imar now. How much is that going to affect Imar's training? Things like that could be thrown in. So I hope, because the West Coast, just like the South, needs wrestling to grow. We need for the West Coast to stop dropping it. So I think it's a great resource, and it's good to see these names. But really and truly, outside the wrestling world, how many people know those names? So that's my only little bit of reservation. But I do think there will be an uptick. So I think Zaleski had obviously run his course. But I am glad to see it. It did shock me to see Imar make that move, especially on an Olympic training cycle, even though he is from the West Coast. Unless he's training with Pendleton or something else. That was my only question, and then my reservation with it.
Yeah. I definitely think that Pendleton's got to have like some of that draw too with Imar, with the training and like knowing all that. Like, what other pieces have we not seen with? Obviously, the other thing now that's almost come second nature to any coaching staff is the RTC. What are they going to have in the mix for that? You already know Imar's top level competitor. Granted, we all talk automatically Dake and Burroughs, but I mean, we've seen Imar wrestle with these guys. So it's not like you can eliminate his name out of that. And it's not just a foregone conclusion that it will be Dake and Burroughs. No matter how much we all say that and talk about it and be like, pick, who's that? That weight class is still loaded. There are other guys in there. And we know that he's going to be competing. So I think there's got to be something that we'll see with the RTC movement up there, whatever it may be. I think location's a good spot for it. So I think finding out what they're going to end up doing with the RTC and then them getting some good West Coast recruits, kind of like how Arizona State was able to pull both Valencia brothers, even though one failed the drug test and the other never did quite turn out to be his brother per se. You know what I mean? Like, because they were both top guys coming out, you know, and you kind of expected the trajectory of both of them to go up, but one kind of went up and the other kind of stayed. So, but you get some recruits like that out there. You know, that I think they're going to have the coaching staff in place, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on with their RTC stuff, and then what happens with their recruiting classes, or what happens with everybody's recruiting classes right now, honestly. Because I've been talking to some different people and just different recruits and stuff like that. Apparently some people are like, yeah, you can recruit right now. And others are like, no, you can't recruit right now. And then apparently one of the things I heard, it was the NCAA has got a blanket statement, but that's up to each university's admin and athletic department on how they determine, how they read it and say, no, we can't contact, or yes, we can, but it can only be through no direct phone call or email, but that still opens up Twitter's, text, and, you know, all those other things. So there's so much gray area in NCAA's. It's kind of crazy with all their rules, but I am very curious to see how, with also all the stopping, no college visits, obviously, how do these recruits this year and next year, how does this affect our recruiting classes going out? What are we going to see with schools and who they pull in and stuff like that? So, because it's going to be a lot more of, if they are recruiting, like this kind of recruiting trip, just virtually, you know, here's the campus if you haven't already been here, if you're not local, you know, and can you imagine trying to make that decision if you're good enough to make choices to go places, to be like, do I go here or here? I've been to this campus, but that was only because it was a local campus and I was there before everything closed down, but I haven't been to these places. And man, it looks great through that phone, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to get this is going to sound kind of weird and, you know, hippie-ish, but it's kind of
there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you get a different feeling from a place when you're actually there than versus picture. I mean, you can actually feel the essence and the, you know, the, again, this sounds weird, but like the essence and the spirit, the vibes of the place. Like you feel the energy. It's hard to do that from a picture, honestly. I mean, you may look at a picture and be like, oh, that looks nice. I mean, because it actually might look nice, but it's kind of different than when you're actually standing in that one location. You know, like if you go hiking or you climb a mountain, you can see pictures from a mountaintop. You know, they look amazing. I mean, they're breathtaking too. But when you're actually up there yourself, it's a completely different feeling.
Yep. So, but I do think it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out and how things turn out. And then also on the flip side, before all this even started, what I think would be interesting is because of the way people are now going to recruit, visit, this kind of stuff or whichever, do that whole portal thing, you know? I mean, how many people are we going to see, oh, I went to the campus and it just really wasn't what I thought it was going to be, or because, you know, they didn't get to go per se. Like, I'm looking at like long term. I'm wondering like what kind of conversation, what episode will we have in, say, a year to 2 years on the number of kids in this transfer portal because of the way recruiting is going on currently right now and other things like that. So I think it could be for a really wild and cool mix up and craziness of, you know.
Well, and if Fargo and these tournaments really don't take place, that sort it out. You know, some of the rankings and some of those guys you didn't know. I mean, that's also going to adjust who colleges really go after. You know, because you know, a guy that they might have been highly touted, you know, right now is slacking off, which you wouldn't hope they would, but somebody else is, or somebody else hits the guard. We all know what happens. Some kids mature later, and so this kid comes in and ends up beating the guy you were going after. So now the guy you were going after, like you said, hits the portal. So rankings and all the stuff from Virginia Beach all the way through when colleges are looking for schools that, and it kind of gets into what the Oregon State, like the places that don't get to travel and the schools that don't travel and the kids that only show up every now and then, it kind of gives you a place. And I think that's still the big issue with the Pac-12. I mean, and Ed, you've been out there and we've all been, like, they're so spread out that it's hard for them to get that quality competition that the Big Ten gets every week because it's so close. So,
I mean, for them, it's a weekend drive. For everybody else, it's a bus ride or flight to get to
Yeah.
like a bigger area or something like that. So
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of like Chattanooga. I mean, much as we love Chattanooga, I mean, you have the scuffle and they're having to get into places here and there, but you're kind of restricted based off your competition.
mhm.
Arizona State, I mean, Oregon State, Pac-12, they've got Vegas, and really they have to kind of plan what they're going to do. I mean, I know Stanford comes to the scuffle, but
Yeah,
but I mean, we know that as coaches, those areas that are hotbeds, that's where your quality teams come from. If you're not from there, you try to get there because you know you're already kind of behind it a little bit. And I guess that's where my reservation comes from
Yeah.
with Oregon State and all that.
yeah. Like our middle school program, for example, we see our same guys and we could wrestle our same teams like X number of times a season, but we do try to, shoot out as far as our buses will allow us to go with funding.
I got you.
You know what I mean? But if I have the choice of going to, driving an hour north or an hour south, if they say yes, then that's the competition I want to go see because that's who we don't normally see. And, it's a different style and that's who you're going to see when you go to the qualifiers and states, and state, all that kind of stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
But it does give the kids from California another solid choice. And I think that's a state that gets well overlooked because it is one tournament. Those of us in the rest community know it, but now they have another quality place to go to. So
yeah.
I hope the best because, like I said, we need the West Coast and we need the Southeast to start picking it up.
I think maybe that's also one of the reasons why my excitement for it is out there. It's like they can do it. You get the right people in place, and you can do it. Then it's a model that can be shown to work elsewhere. And in a sport where we lose more programs than we gain, we need to see success for not just the traditional powerhouses. We need to see success past Big Tens, ACC has been doing really good, but we need to see success past ACC. We need, and then out west, we need to see success past Okie State. They kind of run the show out. Once you pass, past the lineup,
Oklahoma, that's it.
So we need to see other schools show that they can do it and all that kind of stuff. So,
No, it's funny that I'll say it's funny he mentioned the West Coast and all that. I don't know if you saw our video that me and Coach Purdy made. This was, I think, at the beginning of the lockdown, if I'm not mistaken, about the 5 teams that we think should have programs. And couple of the teams actually, one of them was Miami in the ACC. I feel like they should because that Southeast location, it being in Miami, it's like a no-brainer. But one of the other ones for the West Coast was
that was for Severe. That was for you, John.
I was going to say, 2 schools actually. One was Oregon, and the other was Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Oregon used to have a program, so bring them back. Everyone loves the retro story, this nostalgia thing, and then the USC Trojans. I mean, Southern California. Who wouldn't want to go to Southern California? And
until you get there and you realize what it's surrounded by, then
yeah.
No, well, yeah. But you
still, the name of USC.
There's a history of sports
exactly.
within those schools out there, and
Yeah.
They even had one, I think, when you and I were coming through, Ed, because I want to say it was one of those deals where, I guess I got flyers or something from there because of ACT score or something, and it was just like, oh, they have a wrestling team.
They have a wrestling club. I know that. I don't know if I'm not sure if they've had a wrestling team, as far as an actual one in D1, but I know they've had a club, and their club team is actually pretty good from what I've heard.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah. It being such a big school, you would think so. But yeah, why not just, one of those things, why not have a wrestling program? It's a great recruiting location. It's got a great sports history from that university. And then, with Oregon, like I said, Oregon's got pretty decent history with their athletic programs. And then them having a team in the past, like I said, it's just like nostalgia. It'd be like if the Seattle Supersonics came back to the NBA, you would see a resurgence in their fan base. So
the good thing is, and I think we all can agree with this, is with the rise of female high school wrestling and state sanctioning it, wrestling now has that argument of we do have a female complement sport.
Yes.
So when it used to be, well, there's nothing to go with wrestling. Now it is, yes, you can do both. And
now there's an argument for wrestling can go with Title IX instead of fighting against Title IX.
Yeah.
And I think if it ever comes to the SEC, it'll be a blanket across the board. I think the SEC will do it across the board, which it'll be males and females. But that we do have that argument. So that is going to help Oregon. That is going to help Washington. That is going to help California. That's going to help all of these schools because now, you bring in both, which we're seeing at the smaller college levels. They're doing both.
Yeah.
And even small D1s are doing both because
here in South Carolina, Presbyterian College, they started the D1. They're going to be in the Southern Conference, men's and women's, and they built they got Mark Branch they got there? They got Branch. They built a nice new facility out there.
Okay.
Limestone even has they have a
as well.
Yeah.
But I think that is the model looking forward is men's and women's coming in together, with the growth of everything. And I like the model. I think it's, moving forward.
It had to be done to save the sport. As much as we love it, women's wrestling is saving the sport of wrestling, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. It really has. It went from women's wrestling kind of went from that thing to like, oh, girls wrestle? Oh, a girl can wrestle to wrestle like a girl to the success that the Adeline Grays and Helen Maroulas started having. And then the trickle down and just like looking at, and I don't want to sound male chauvinistic, but like looking at the posters of our women's team and people being like, wow, these are like attractive women too, so like getting rid of the stigma of, women athletes and that whole negative college stereotypes for all these things. And people are like, oh, it can be, I can be feminine, but yet then I can still go wrestle. And then like the growth of that, like I said, the numbers drawing and going up, like I said.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Victoria Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
She not only is she a great wrestler, but she's also got the social media presence, and she does all these different things on social media. She's got like a huge following there, and it's she's kind of gotten Adeline Gray and all them laid that foundation for her. Obviously, so she's had that foundation, and now she's using it. She's kind of taking it that next step further by incorporating this social media and doing all these different things to kind of even hype it up even more, and she's become real popular from that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just a changing of times that has been going this way for not a really long time now, but like I'd say within the last 5 years, you've seen more of social media is another avenue of promotion. It's another way of getting your name out. It's no longer, social media is no longer just the little kids talking, or it's no longer just the parents showing baby pictures. It's to promote a brand, a business, a sport, an identity of somebody. It's used for so much more now. And even more so now with quarantines and things like that and people having to do things virtually. I think we're just seeing this presence and this platform. It's one of those things that I argue with teachers about a lot. They're talking about hating technology and hating this and hating phones and hating these things in the classroom, where I 100% get it. In a lot of ways, we are dumber with them. Like there's a memory thing that we were talking about before. How many phone numbers did you have memorized when you were growing up? And then that number would change on you and then you re-memorize it. But how many people can say they knew the same number of phone numbers that we knew growing up, and could recall them like that? And even today, like I can't recall as many of the phone numbers, I know some of the ones like my grandmother's from, because I knew that one from back then and that one hadn't changed. But, between a short handful, I don't have them memorized like I once did. So
I could not tell you what your phone number even starts with. I know it's 864. That's about it, though. But
yeah, so
call Ed Purdy.
The phone number starts with "Hey Siri" or whatever the other one is, But and Hey Siri is talking. Sorry, no, never mind.
Stop.
Yeah, stop. No, it was funny. It was like the other day, my kid was like on the computer and he was like, "Hey Siri, please go away." Like it popped up. Like they've learned how to talk to the computer.
Yeah. Well, and the social media, what you're saying is interesting because we actually met as a staff about it because we have everything. We have the Facebook, we have the Twitter, we have the Instagram, and it's all linked. But we're adjusting it based off what schools are looking at now that we're starting to have kids. And so our Instagram and our Facebook is our community centered stuff to get stuff out about our kids, what we're doing for our community. And Twitter is going to be our thing for us to use for colleges, since colleges are all over Twitter a lot more than Facebook and Instagram. So that's going to be where our kids, for their academics, the kids looking to go to schools, look to getting recruited, we're going to do our spotlights. And so that one we're kind of separating and using it more as a business model to mark kids for future success academically and scholarship-wise, whether they wrestle or not. So that way they do know. And when colleges are like, man, I'm looking for a kid that I need about a 157, who do I have? You know, they can just pop our Twitter account and go, oh, well, there's this kid. They've got this guy right here. Yeah. So even as a high school program, you know, we have fully embraced that with everything going on. And, you know, we're going to incorporate a YouTube channel. We've already done it, but we're going to incorporate a YouTube channel this year to do matches and interviews. And I mean, that's what society is. And what you said is exactly right. The people that are pushing are lost, and those places that are like, all right, well, how does this work? Yeah. You know, and that's what you got to do.
Well, like I said, for as much as we're dumber for them, it's not like it's going away. So we have to learn how to teach the generation with them. And the other thing that I'm big on right now that drives me nuts is we also have to take a look back, and whether it be from elementary school or middle school or whenever on, is knowing that they have these, knowing that they have MacBooks or Chromebooks or computers and stuff like that. We need to fundamentally go back to the beginning and not assume that they know how to use it. Because we get to middle school or high school and we're like, where did you save it at? I don't know. How did you save it? I don't know. What did you do? I don't know. We can't just because they know how to use it doesn't mean that they know how to use it functionally for other things. Like, what did you file? Like, it's just a stupid thing, but it's as simple as file name, file extension, and location of where you saved it. If we can,
whatever, Google, whatever.
Yeah, and then embrace the technology and teach through it and with it as a complement to whatever it is that we're doing. But yeah, you know, it's like you said, from people, Victoria Anthony using it to promote herself and the sport. You know, everything is taking steps further, and we got to look at it. It's not going away.
I mean, Bryce Meredith and Seth Gross a couple years ago, that's how that match got, you know, hyped up real big. Social media.
Yeah, social media. Great thing.
I was about to say that thing about, I got to hear Chris Bono speak about where he went to South Dakota State, but they just ate up social media with Get Jacked. And next thing you know, like, all these wrestling people are like, man, South Dakota State, and like, they were decent, but really and truly, it was all because of social media and the stuff he did. So getting to hear him talk and how he had, I mean, he's our age, he's Ed and I's age, like, but just like you get into with the kids, find out what the kids are doing. You learn from your mistakes, which he said he did, because he just gave it over to a kid one time and some stuff that shouldn't have been done. So they made some adjustments, but you have to be willing to do it. Like you said, you have to be willing to understand what's happening. And yeah, that Seth Gross match was nice to see that.
It was cool to see him because he was at Chattanooga, and you could see the start of like his social media presence, because that's where the Bonafide kind of started. And maybe Bonafide started before that, but that's the first place I saw a hashtag Bonafide. Yep. And then I was kind of like, oh, that's, you know, Mono. And then he left, and then you saw like the presence of Get Jacked and everything. You could see like the beginning of that upswing of what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go with it. And like you said, South Dakota State was very much like a Chattanooga, and maybe he could have stayed at Chattanooga. Maybe the offer was better at South Dakota State. I don't know all the makings, all that, but there really wasn't a whole lot of difference in my opinion as far as like going from one mid-major to another mid-major. But I think, and again, not to wonder about whatever Chattanooga's said to him or whatever, but I think South Dakota State said kind of like free reign, like, man, if this is the way you want to go with it. And then he ran with it, and when it ran, it ran.
It ran, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do not feel technology is an enemy, so I, for one, welcome the AI overlords in the future. So.
You going to be working for them or with them, or which way are we going?
Whatever they need me to do, because I welcome them.
So we know who Mr. Smith is.
He said both. Look, my man over here is going to be a guinea pig for AI robots and aliens, and we're not going to talk about whatever probings and all that's going to happen to our man over here.
I love how the CIA, like you said, Tyler, CIA during all of this kind of said, "Oh, they're real," and nobody cared.
Oh, I know, right? Like everyone's just like, cool.
I still see Tyler still speaking of postings. Tyler is still posting stuff like that. Like every third post is something about and nobody cares if aliens are real. It's like,
I mean, that is something that people have been wondering for thousands of years, and we were just like, oh yeah, here it is, and everyone's like, okay, cool, like. What? Like this was supposed to be groundbreaking.
Every third post, we go from fuzzy puppies to games to wrestling to real.
Let's figure out. Let's see. How can we let them know they're starting to catch on that Area 51 is real? Hey, let's release a fake pandemic, crash the economy, tell them, and nobody will know.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna mask it by just
See, this all started with what was it? Rush Area 51. They can't stop us all. You know,
I've actually got a shirt from there. The one that I have, the one that says Area
you were
51
going. You were going to be there, weren't you?
I wanted to.
Yeah. Hey, you want to know all those memes that say they can't stop us all? Guess what? They stopped us all.
They stopped.
No, it's just they actually did stop us all. Now we think about it. It was a slow play. It was a slow play.
I want to see you run with this one. I need to see a paper from you on this, on how COVID-19 is how they stopped us all from rushing area.
This was a slow play on their part. No, what was funny about all that Area 51 running stuff is that because I loved it. I mean, it was those memes were hilarious. Like me leaving Area 51 with my alien and stuff. Like those are hilarious. But what got me was people actually went. But they did nothing. Like they just stood around and had a barbecue and stuff. I'm like, that's no fun. I wanted to see people actually trying to run in there.
You think the people that said they were going to storm Area 51 were actually going to storm Area 51?
Some of them, I hoped yes.
No.
It would have been much more interesting.
Oh, there's no doubt. But it would be like the guys from Big Bang Theory saying they're going to storm Area 51, knowing they're going to get there and be like, well,
I'd rather not get shot.
It's all fun and games to the gun
show. I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Well, those guns really do fire bullets.
But, hey, there you go. That shows what social media does. That started out as a joke, and then it actually turned into an event that people showed up to, even though they didn't actually do it. But people actually showed up all because of social media. So there you go.
We have devolved today, guys. We have definitely devolved.
I'm going to bring it back one time, and then I think maybe we got
He said one time. He's not trying more than once.
This is the third tangent we've gone on.
I'm going to bring it full circle. You mentioned Gilman earlier today. So I saw another ad on social media, and this one was for Scrap Life, and they were talking about can't control tomorrow, blah, 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 can't control today. And it was your regular faces. It was started with David Taylor, Ashnault, since he signed with them. Of course, Nolf, Bo Nickel, McKenna signed with him, which I kind of thought he would be a rudest guy coming from Ohio State. But he's been with him for a little bit now. And then the last clip was, and I'll be ready. And it was Gilman. I was like, and it blew my mind because my persona of Gilman, and I understand, and I've watched the interviews, and I understand that he is very much kind of for show in the sense of how he talks to the mics and he does things. And he's kind of a little bit of a, not necessarily an introvert, but he kind of likes to apparently walk his dog, wear his Birkenstocks, and go to the coffee shop, and kind of be low key type thing. But when he's on the mat and he's doing his thing, he's he is who he is. I'll meet you in the parking lot. We can do all that kind of stuff. His Iowa persona. And then you just see that, even though it's Scrap Life, but it's kind of very much Penn State feel, in room, all, and it was weird to me. It was I just fully, it's still hard.
Yeah. You know what would have been more interesting? You're talking about, you're saying it said you can control this, you can control that, you're saying in the video.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been great at the very end. It said, but you can't control Gilman, and then, put his face up, put him up on the video. That would have been great.
That would have been a better fit for it. The rogue Scrap Life guy, Gilman, his shoe is the one that's completely different color than everybody else's because, all their other stuff is kind of neat and uniform and, this very Penn State, ironed out. We've got our plan. This is how we do it. We will have fun. Just that very Kel Sanderson, Penn State type thing is that whole Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. And then you throw Gilman in there. It's just like the firecracker.
Yeah, it makes no – like the only thing that would be even more weird than that would be in the next few years, like if DeSanto started having a more international presence and then you saw him go over to Penn State, you'd be like, hold up, like that doesn't even make sense. So, that would have been perfect. I mean, to have all those things, like you can control this, you can control that, but you can't control Thomas Gilman and then have him like pop up on the video. I mean, but, I think I'm not shocked that he's with Scrap Life. Just, obviously him with the Nittany Lions Wrestling Club now.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things that you're just like, yeah, I mean.
Well, remember I initially asked the question. I said, when Kyle Snyder went to Nittany Lion, I said, will we see him flip from Rudis to Scrap Life? Because
I think he's the exception.
Yeah. I mean, but that room at Nittany Lion is predominantly all Scrap Life,
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see Gilman went from Nike to Scrap Life, when he made the
Yeah, but Gilman also wasn't the
the face of
whereas
like
Kyle Snyder is
kind of started off as the face of Rudis, being the first one signed with them and all, but
he was pretty much their cornerstone, the building block. He was the backbone that they he's the foundation of what they tried to build their wrestling brand off of. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think he's more of an exception than Gilman.
It still is a surprise to me that
it is a surprise.
Gilman did it, but at the same time, because of all of that, though, like at the end of the day, what they're doing is not just building a brand and a reputation, but like they're now professionals and this is their livelihood. Scrap Life comes out with a better contract and says we can design a shoe that looks different than these ones, and we make you the Nittany Lion. I don't know, you couldn't call it the Infinity, Kyle Snyder Infinity anymore because that's what the Rudis use, but like, I don't know,
Well, and it's kind of interesting because everything you described about Gilman is exactly what Dan Dennis is, who is now at the Hawkeye Club. But it shows you where Scrap Life and Rudis is in relation to Nike. I mean, where is the Nike brands? Even ASICS now. ASICS used to be the brand, and even Adidas used to be the. I mean, Adidas's main line is the Varner. A lot of people don't even know who Varner is anymore. So I mean, it does make sense for Gilman, who's now there. It's like, Nike, what are you going to give me? They're like, we'll give you whatever shoe we got. And then Scrap Life's like, we'll give you.
Nike's one shoe. I mean, I'd try it on and I'd rock it if it was given to me, like the Hyper Sweeps. But I hadn't.
Yeah, I was about to say the Hyper Sweeps. They only want the weird looking laces that kind of
on the bottom. But I hadn't. But I mean, but beyond that, they don't have like a shoe. I mean, Scrap Life and Rudis are both building shoes. Like I've got and Tyler's got the Dave Schultz. It's built off of that, and you got the Kyle Snyders. I mean.
And even ASIC, I mean, as much as we love him, the last line that they made was the Burrows. Mm-hmm. They haven't brought out any new guys either. So, I mean, Scrap Life and Rudis are hustling to get guys and to get some stuff. And I know Gilman's not a big name for a lot of people like those others are, but it does now connect them to the Iowa group.
Yeah.
That's a big group.
To get the stuff over there, like, I don't know. Like, I really like the Rudis shoes, and I really enjoyed those. I'll probably still kind of keep collecting those, like at least that the Dave Schultz series, the Sly Fox, those are awesome. I love those shoes and all, but like, and I looked at the Scrap Life shoes and I was like, but like, I mean, if they keep doing stuff, I might try a pair, I mean, heck, that sale that Adidas is having, even though like I said, the only name on there is the Varners, I mean, stuff like that, but they're having a great sale right now.
Yeah, my head coach is a huge Adidas fan, and so he sent that to us. He knows I can't stand Adidas because once they discontinued the original Combat Speed, I'm like, you don't exist. You don't exist anymore.
The red and black ones that I had, like those were I wore those completely out. Yes, so
yeah, Kel's got mine. Whatever treads left on them, my son's gonna get to wear them out once he wears them in. Once he gets big enough to wear them. So, but outside of those, I'm like.
Well, for ASICs for me, like I'd like to try some Rulons or aggressors or something, but like my My favorite Asics was the International Lights, but those again are like, they don't make those anymore either. So
Mhm.
See, I like the Tigers, the Tiger ones, and then the Dave Schultz ones that Asics did. Look very similar to the Tiger.
yeah.
Yeah, I think those were just. I mean, those are clean. They're traditional. They're old school. I mean, I like the look of them, but yeah, outside. I mean, other than the Jordan Burroughs shoes, I mean, you have the aggressors from Asics, but you're just kind of like, I mean, they haven't really given anything.
No, I mean the
great.
only reason why people wear the aggressors is because they're kind of like the hypers. Like if you're with Asics, you get the aggressors. If you're a Nike athlete, you see them wearing the hyper suits. Like they have two models of shoe, or they each have like one model of shoe that's like their top shoe, but it's not specific to anybody. Like you're not getting from what Rudis and Scrap Life apparently are doing is getting that athlete feedback to make the shoe. Other than maybe the Burrows, but
It's just like basketball. I mean, you got LeBrons, you got Kobe's, you got Jordans, you got James Harden shoes. I mean, you got shoes for almost all these top athletes. We're probably going to start seeing that here, I would say, in the future with wrestling. These athletes are going to be looking more to because with wrestling, it's kind of hard to really. It's really hard to have that one thing that's yours. Like in basketball, you can wear like an arm sleeve or something, and all this. You have your shoes. But in wrestling, you have a singlet, headgear if you choose to wear one, and then shoes. I mean, that's really it. I mean, it's really hard to stand out because there's certain things. I mean, Bryce Meredith did it with the shooting sleeve, obviously. But, I mean, there's very few things you can wear in our sport that are – I guess synonymous with, one particular person where you can just look and be like, oh, that's going to be such and such. I mean, like I said, outside of Bryce Meredith.
Well, I think maybe the best person to do it was probably, even though we kind of have, not that we dogged on his shoes or dogged on that brand, but Asics with Jordan Burroughs with the gold shoes,
Exactly. I mean,
the biggest thing that we had was his gold shoes, the gold standard, gold. So beyond that.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in because I got to take off to get my girl to gymnastics. But I agree with exactly what Tyler said. I think that's why Rudis and Scrap Life are taking off, and ASIC and Nike are going to have, because they've realized they're doing what Nike did with Jordan. They saw last. They're doing exactly the model that those companies did in the niche where they're not expanding. Let's get big name people. Let's give them a shoe, and guess what? People will throw down $160 because it says Kyle Snyder. So.
All right, man. Will you take care?
See you guys next week.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah. No, you were earlier. You were talking about wrestlers doing, good things and all that. And before we got off, I wanted to give a shout out to, Shaquan, just because I don't know if you've seen around town.
Yeah, the billboard. Yeah, got shout out to our man. He heard. His big as life, bigger than life, huh?
Exactly. I mean, he's a former wrestler. You look what he's grinding hard, and then he's kind of the face of Spartanburg Community College. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know if he really wants me. I mean, I'm sure people will know soon enough, but he's actually going to Upstate now. He just got accepted for the fall semester. So I'm like, man, you really did all that stuff. You got on all their billboards and then jumped ship. That's so messed up.
That's hilarious. But like the program that he's in with the Call Me Mister thing, is that a school-specific program, like Upstate?
No, it's over multiple schools. I know Clemson had one at one time. He was thinking about doing it over there.
Yeah, well, that's what I was wondering, because I know that's been a big part of his stuff. So
and I mean, Upstate is a great teaching school. I mean, they have a really good teaching program.
No, I mean, we get a lot of their student teachers and stuff too. So between Upstate,
yeah. So I mean, I think him coming in with the this is going to sound kind of weird, but with the credentials that he has and what he's done at Spartanburg Community College. I mean, because you think of what most people do at community college, it's lay low.
If you think about it, though, I don't think it's really jumping ship. It's more of the progression of what he needs to do to get.
Well, no, yeah, he had to do it
to get to student teaching and doing things. So, I think it's.
No, I mean, 100%.
Let's just say it's a selling point for SMC. Look where our guys continue to go.
Yeah. No, and I'm just joking about him jumping ship. I mean, because at Spartanburg Community College, it's a 2-year school. I mean, you're not going to go there and get like a bachelor's or anything. At least I don't think you can. But like, you're not going to get your bachelor's. You're not going to do all this. I mean, so eventually he would have had to leave.
Yeah.
Just like for me, I'm going to have to leave USC Upstate one year when I go to grad school. I'm going to have to go somewhere else. It's really cool because, most people when they go to community college, and I'm kind of bragging on him, so I'll have to tag him in this.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's really cool. Like when you see people go to community college, I was one of them. It's lay low, just do your classes, just do what you have to do, get in and get out. He's, done the complete opposite. Like he's basically made a presence there. He's made himself, a big part of, that the Call Me Mr. program and doing different things. And I think he was doing stuff with he was doing so many different things, and he built up a good reputation there and has a really good resume now. I mean, so it's interesting. I want to see I'm hoping he continues doing that at Upstate too. I mean, it's kind of inspired me, and it made me want to start, doing more things while I was at Upstate. And this coronavirus stuff hit, so I was kind of put a bullet ahead of those plans. But once we go back in the fall, hopefully I'll be able to do some of that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, what are y'all doing in the fall?
Have not heard anything new as of yet. The current game plan is to, obviously finish out this year. Things are closed up during the summer, it seems like, but we're just waiting on the state superintendent of education to make the call for next year. I honestly feel right now, I'm glad that we don't know because it's too early to make that decision. So I think I'm of a common sense. Hopefully, let's go with science and results and time and see where things go. But the obvious thing is they're working on contingency plans with the best case scenario. Obviously, everybody wants to go back to school like normal. So that's where we sit.
We just found out, I think last week, what we're going to do. Like late last week, how we're going to do our semester. They sent us out the email. What it's going to be is we're going to go all the way up until Thanksgiving break. We're not going to have fall break. They're going to get rid of fall break. I think it's because they're worried about people going out and vacation.
That you're already not there apparently. Like you're talking about.
Well, maybe no. We're going to be on campus, face to face.
Oh, okay. So you are going to be on campus. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they said we're going to do face to face instruction all the way up, no breaks on the during fall break that we're supposed to be that's going to be canceled. Any holidays, I think they said we're going to have online learning. But the reason for it is because as soon as Thanksgiving break hits, we're done with face to face instruction. They said we're going all back to online again after that because they said that's when the numbers say we're supposed to have another peak.
So that they're looking at the season of
which is during flu season.
Going to happen, I think.
Yeah, so they're trying to. Personally, I believe they made too quick a decision, and I'm hoping they're not, locked themselves into this. But at the same time, I mean, I kind of like it because I do better on campus, just because it's so much more difficult to work from home.
Sure.
But at the same time, like when it comes to safety, it's like, how are you going to do this? Because you're going to have classes. I mean, I've had classes where we've had 30, 40-something people in a room. I've also had classes where I've had 4 people in a room too, including the professor. So it's going to be one of those delicate balances of how are we going to do this while mitigating the spread of this virus that's still going on. Yeah.
So, well, it's interesting to hear the plan for that, but at least I like the plan of starting, that shows hope of starting, them saying we're going to start face-to-face, so that there is hope. So, trying to stay positive with everything and hope that we obviously go back that way and see whatever happens. So, but man, it's good to have you back on after, I think you were at the farm last week and all. So
yes. Oh no, we got everything planted, and matter of fact, we're thinking we're having to replant the corn and the okra because, we had the seeds for a while and we think that they may have dried out or something, and they're just not, because they're germinating like they're supposed to. So we actually, my uncle, he messaged me while we were doing this. You probably saw me looking at my phone. He's going to pick up some more seeds right now, and we're going to head down there at the end of the week and replant the corn and the okra.
It'd be a good time because, like, if the rain is going like it is, where it's just kind of steady but not like washout rain, man, it's a good time to get stuff planted and get that good base of just like.
Well, we're worried because if you overwater plants, if
it's kind of like steady, but you don't want that washout too much. Like right now, like today, like yesterday and today has been good. Like it was just rain.
The only issue is we have an automatic watering system that goes right now.
Yeah, so
it comes on for an hour every morning. It runs on drip tape.
Yeah.
Which the thing that's good about drip tape is it drips directly into the roots. So it just so you may not see like a big puddle on top, but if you dig your fingers down,
it's under
it's
there.
It's wet. Yeah.
Which is where you want it anyway, because if the sun is out, it's going to evaporate anyway. Then you've just wasted water. So.
Yeah, and we're just worried that maybe these past 2 days it may have gotten too much water. Maybe.
Gotcha.
We don't know. We're gonna have to go down there. And
yeah, one on top of the other. So. But.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, it was good seeing you again, and good. Hopefully everybody's doing well, and we will. Like I said, good thing about it is we've been pretty regular on Tuesdays, and then get it all uploaded on Wednesday mornings. So,
all right.
All right. Catch you later on, man.
Bye bye.